Dewey, more thoughts. Henri Veesaar. He flashed a post game that I didn't really think he had a power post game. I thought that was I think that bodes well for this team as well. It gives them that option. I do question the entry passes a lot of the times. It seems like the bigs are the best at entry passes, but maybe Dixon can clean some of that up. But just Veesaar stuff.
Yeah, versatility, right? I mean, finishing with both hands. They replayed it on the broadcast. It was a really nice play where Caleb actually set a ball screen for him to drive to his right and got a dunk because the bigs for Kentucky screwed it up. Vital was singing his praises, very impressed seeing Veesaar in person. I mean, he looked down 8 for 12, 17 points, 10 rebounds. That man needs more touches. And he's also shown so far this year that he can hit that trailing big three-pointer as well. So very versatile, a pretty good passer, and we've got to continue to work towards playing a little bit more inside out with both of them. Because that's the key, for our success is getting those guys the basketball in spots to be successful. I thought Kentucky late after Veesaar had a good, first half of the second half, they forced him to catch the ball much further off the block, which is a harder spot for him to be successful from. So, a little bit better movement, a little bit better screening, but man, there's a lot of old stuff in that Coach Williams playbook about how to play with two bigs. So, certainly Sean knows a lot of that stuff. So I love what we've seen from him. I did watch him a couple times for Arizona last year, and I was thrilled when we got him. And even then, I think he's better than I thought, and really worked on his game over the summer. So the ball's got to go in there. And like you said, maybe Dixon, places a little bit higher priority on getting the ball to them in spaces they can be successful. And again, we talked about Evans. I want him to be who he is. His elite skill is shooting. We've got to figure out how to get him making shots. The two he took in the second half were forced. He's clearly uncomfortable. And then he's also undersized and struggles defensively. All those things stacked up. I'm not saying we're giving up on him, but let's figure out a way to hide his weaknesses and move towards his strengths, which are shooting.
Yeah, I want to go there, but Rob, I want to get your take, and let's talk about the big rotation. Obviously, we mentioned Zayden High played 4 minutes, but the three of Stevenson, Veesaar, and Wilson handled the interior, and then they rotated, Jonathan Powell in to take some of those minutes if there were only two bigs out there. I don't know if it's just one game, or if it's an evolution from Hubert Davis, Rob, but your thoughts on how they managed the interior, because Marino from Kentucky was a load down there, and they handled that by being able to rotate, and they stayed out of foul trouble, which is giant.
I was happy the way that they approached it. High is sort of right on the cusp of being a rotation player versus getting spot minutes, which I think is different. He was more spot minutes tonight, but I would love to see him get just a few like that. I thought Veesaar is learning to play with his conditioning limitations. Not that he's out of shape, but he's not a sprint 40 minutes guy, but he's having to really play heavy minutes out of necessity, and he conserved his energy well. So I give him a lot of credit for that. I would love to see High emerge just maybe 6 or 7 minutes a game, but I think Hubert has to coach the team to win. And if these guys aren't playing well enough to play, they won't. I keep hoping that Stevenson will be a little bit more physical. That hasn't happened yet the way that I like, although he had some good moments. But I'd love to see him become another big body who would go inside sometimes. Sort of what Dewey's saying is play inside out more. I think the quality, I think the 3-point shooting is tracking with some of the failures to get inside more. And you saw when it does work, when they go inside first, they can get good threes. They took some rush ones tonight, unlike Michigan State. I still think the shooting will come around in the end, especially if Evans gets going, especially if that's off the ball. I think that's going to help him immensely. And to your question about managing the interior, they have real thin margins there because they don't have much depth. But if they can use High strategically, and maybe he can grow into a bigger role, He doesn't need to play 12 minutes a game. I mean, we're just talking 6 or 8 minutes a game. I think would be huge.